Hey guys, so I noticed that only a small percentage of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you like my content, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications to make sure that my content gets to you on time. Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about kind of an abstract concept in TFT I call tempo. And if you're familiar with like other card games, you would know that tempo is kind of really difficult to define in every single game. Tempo definitely exists in TFT, and unfortunately, no one's really gone through the process of defining what tempo is or how to understand it. So today I'm going to try to take a stab at it. To me, tempo is the act of turning gold and item components into board and health advantage. So in my opinion, in addition to board advantage, I think it also includes bench units as well. This being because bench units turns into board advantage in the near future. So the closest word I can think of to tempo is probably the idea of spiking. Basically, when your comp, when you suddenly roll down all your gold and spike your comp, that's when you're playing with high tempo. So to me, the opposite of tempo is also value. Value is the idea, instead of using your gold to put it towards board strength, you use your gold in order to generate more gold, such as trying to make the next interest threshold by selling units on your bench. So that's sacrificing tempo in order to gain value. Okay, so before we talk about tempo, let me try to make this, I try to visualize what tempo really means to me. So I created this dummy example. Say in a two-player game, player A and B both starts with 10 gold and you get 5 gold per round. So just in a regular TFT match. Now, I have two really stupid players. Player 1, player A uses all of his gold every single turn. He gets 0 interest per round. Player B econs to 50 gold and only uses the excess gold. Player B, of course, gets interest along the way. So to make this simple, I'm not going to have any win gold, any win streak or lose streak gold, and also because I'm lazy. So you can imagine who's probably going to come out ahead in this scenario. Well, I went ahead and just put the table out here for you. I don't know what the letters got a little bit mixed up, but hopefully this is still readable. So at the top right here is the stage number. So 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 5, 2, 6, then Krugs, then Wolves, then Raptors, then Dragon. And then player A, of course, uses his gold every single turn. So he starts with 10 gold. The next turn he gets +5, then +5, then +5, all the way till infinity. Player B spends his first few rounds econing. So he starts with 10 gold. He econs. Oh, he hits 50. Now he gets the 5 gold naturally and the 5 gold from interest, and then he puts it all into his board. So he gets 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, all the way till end. So you can tell from this table, player A, because he's playing with tempo, he's gonna have an HP advantage here. His board's gonna be stronger through Krugs, all the way through Wolves, and at stage 4-3, which is halfway through stage 4, A and B's board are identical in strength. Now at this point, player A has kept all his HP. Player B has lost all of his a ton of HP up until stage 4-3. And then after stage 4-3, now player B is stronger, and then player A is slowly bleeding out. If you play a lot of TFT, you will know that most TFT matches end about at, the first few people often die at 5-1, and then most games end around 6-1. So in this case, player A almost has no chance to die at 5-1. He probably doesn't even die till like the middle of stage 5 or the late stage 5. While player B essentially hasn't won a single round up to like stage 4-2, right? And then his HP is probably very low. A few bad fights could send him dying on stage 5-1. So in this little simple example, you can see what tempo advantage really means. Tempo advantage is saying that I'm going to convert all my gold into board strength. I'm not going to worry about econing. I'm not going to worry about the future. And I'm just going to put the pedal to the metal to try to maximize my board and save my HP. Now in this example, it is of my opinion that I think player A will probably do better in the long run. So like over multiple games. Motivation out of the way, I hope it kind of gives you an idea what I think about in terms of tempo. So let me give you some examples of what high tempo kind of means to me. So high tempo plays often refers to leveling aggressively, such as leveling to these levels at these stages, or pre-leveling, which is to say like, pre-leveling is the idea that like such as pre-leveling to 2-1 is you level and then next round you naturally turn into the next level and get the better shop. So something that is also high tempo is holding a lot of pairs on your bench. You're sacrificing your gold and your interest gold in order to become stronger in the near future. Anytime you hit a pair, that suddenly turns into board strength. Something that also is high tempo is making 2-star units. Like if you make a 2-star unit at 2-1, that is very high tempo because you're sacrificing 9 gold, which could go towards interest and value, but you instead put into your board strength right now. And then kind of a similar question is, would making a 2-star Lulu be a good or a high tempo play? Well, in this case, you're trading off a lot of value because that 9 gold can definitely go towards a lot of interest for a little bit of tempo, right? Because a Lulu 2 is not going to change the strength of your board that much. So you're actually getting low tempo for high value, which is not a good trade. And then other examples of high tempo include slamming early game items and then rolling down a lot of your gold, sometimes down to as low as 10 and 20. Now the counter examples of on the opposite end we have low tempos. Low tempo plays often imply high value plays, such as making 50 gold before using it, selling all your units on your board or on your bench in order to make 10 gold, rolling at 8 instead of rolling at 7. So sometimes you don't want to roll a 7 because the odds are not as good. So you want to roll at 8. That is a low tempo play. And then often leveling passively, waiting for the correct interval. So instead of leveling at 4-1, maybe you want to level at 4-2. So these are all low tempo plays that generate you a lot of value. Value here being extra gold. Mid tempo is also really a theme, but I'm not really going to talk about it because it's not really that interesting to discuss. Now that you kind of have an idea of what tempo is and kind of have a basic understanding of tempo, why is it relevant? So high tempo actually has a lot of advantages built in. So when you have a high tempo playstyle, it usually means you're playing with more HP, which means on average you're getting higher average placements. It also means that each stage you actually have a lot more choices, because sometimes you can decide, I'm gonna go ahead and sacrifice HP for this round in order to try to get more gold. High tempo also has an advantage that if you're also win streaking and you're playing high tempo, you're actually making just as much gold as the loose streakers. So if you're high tempo and you're win streaking, you're getting just as much gold and you're playing with a stronger board. This can snowball you into the freest first, and this happens all the time. But high tempo has its disadvantages, right? So if you're not win streaking, basically you're falling off once everyone else spikes. It usually means that you're pretty much going to slowly bleed to death. But so for on the low tempo end, the low tempo players also have an advantage where basically by accruing value early game, later at any point in the game, the low tempo players can convert into a high tempo player by rolling down all their gold, slamming all their items, and making perfect items for the carries. The low tempo disadvantage is, of course, they have low HP. So in the event that they face a super strong high roller, they can just get knocked out and die. So the second idea of why tempo is relevant, basically by knowing when to play a high tempo style and when to play a low tempo style, you can actually secure more top 4s and top 1s. So it's kind of tricky, but I think in a little bit I'll be going over it. So before we talk about that, in addition to having a high tempo playstyle and a low tempo playstyle, lobbies can also be high tempo or low tempo. So a high tempo lobby is a type of lobby where a lot of people are playing like high tempo compositions. So compositions that roll down on 3-2 to like 10 or 20 gold tend to be a high tempo composition, which means if a lot of people are playing that style of board, the lobby is very high tempo. Another reason why a lobby could be high tempo is, say a lot of people have really high roll starts and they start aggressively leveling and win streaking. Sometimes you see like 2 to 3 people win streaking all the way to wolves. It's kind of ridiculous, but it happens. Then you know that the lobby tempo is very high and people are probably going to die very early in this lobby. And then the last way you can see if it's a high tempo lobby is, say a lot of people are slamming their items. Usually that means that most of these players are actually playing for tempo. So that can be a high tempo lobby indicator as well. And then for low tempo lobbies, often it's related to the meta. But you can see a lot of people sacrificing all their like HP until 4-1. And then basically the game has very low tempo until stage 4-1. And at stage 4-1 it suddenly spikes. And then the game is extremely high tempo. Another reason why lobby could be low tempo is everybody has a low roll start. Everybody makes 10, and everybody econs up to 50. So the tempo of the lobby is really low, and basically it just means a lot of people are going to spike into the future. So in general, you definitely want to match the lobby's tempo. So if a lot of people roll down on 3-2, then you also want to at least stabilize on 3-2. So probably roll to like 20 or 30. And if a lot of people are playing low tempo playstyle, that means that later in the game, people are going to be spiking really hard. So you also want to spike really hard. And if you can't spike really hard, you should definitely spend all your gold when they spike so you can bleed out slower than them and then secure top 4. So with that out of the way, so the two important questions to ask and answer is when do you want to play high tempo and when do you want to play low tempo? So high tempo, basically the whole idea is if you're on a win streak, you want to play high tempo. If you want a win streak, you want to keep pushing your tempo because if you keep winning, you're rewarded with more gold. And as long as you have more gold, you can keep dumping that into value on your board. And it basically snowballs more win streak into more gold, into more stronger board, into more win streak, into more gold, etc. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is if you're high rolling and you're not on a win streak yet, but you think you can go on a win streak. So that can happen whenever. Say say you're 2-1, you have a lot of 2-star units. That's an indicator that you should probably play a high tempo game. You should play high tempo this game. Or say you're at like a stage 4-1 and you hit 3 Dravens in a row. That's probably an indicator that starting from stage 4, you should definitely play a high tempo playstyle. And number 3 is that your build is a high tempo playstyle. So this is probably most remnant of 6 for gun. When we play 6 for gun, often you want to roll at 3-2, and then you want to maintain that high tempo playstyle pretty much till the end of the game, right? You don't really care about econing. You want to just get ahead of the curve and win as many rounds as you can before you start falling off. Reason number 4, the lobby is really high roll and the lobby is playing really high tempo. And basically, you know from the get-go that you need to save a lot of HP. So in this case, you're just leveling, you're trying to play your strongest board every single turn, and you're trying to top 4 by bleeding out the slowest. So this happens actually pretty frequently when multiple people are high rolling. So number 5 is you were high rolling, but now suddenly you high rolled into like a few units, and now you can't go on a win streak. So the moment you high roll, you want to start building up your win streak again. It's pretty much identical to number 2. And then number 6, basically you were playing low tempo, but now you're really low HP. Maybe you just got some really unlucky fights, and now you're forced to play high tempo for the rest of the game in order to save HP. So that basically in this case you're trying to play for like a 6th or a 7th. So in just a summary, play high tempo when you're strong or you think you could be the strongest. So it's pretty simple. And then when to play low tempo. In general, you want to avoid playing low tempo as much as possible. So obviously, when you can't play high tempo and you're low rolling, you can play low tempo. Because playing high tempo doesn't do anything if you can't actually change the board, change like the gold that you spend into board strength. Another reason to play low tempo is at the start of the game, you don't know if you're going to win streak or lose streak. So sometimes an indicator to say is if you win your first round and then during the next shop you hit a few 2-star units, then you can actually just convert that into a high tempo playstyle and then try to force a win streak. But if you lose the first round and maybe you don't hit your pairs, then you can probably just try to make the next econ threshold, play low tempo, and gather a lot of gold, and then later stabilize into the future. Another reason why to play a low tempo is, say your build actually needs a lot of gold. Basically, builds such as like Aphelios often needs a lot of 4 costs and 5 costs. So if you spend all your gold at the first half of the game or the initial part of the game, you actually can never hit your build. So what you need to do is you need to bleed out very slowly, accrue a lot of money, then try to go 8 and roll down all your gold, right? So that's the reason to play low tempo. And then number 4 is that you're confident the gold advantage will stabilize you into the future. So this just comes to knowing a build very well. Often this is like reminiscent of set 3 mech or set 2 blender nocturne. Basically, it's the whole idea is that like I know that even if I have like 20 or 30 HP, as long as I have perfect items and I have enough gold, I can hit everything and I can stabilize no matter what. So this is it's a pretty common reason actually. So in general, you want to play a low tempo when you're weak, but of course this necessarily means at some point into the future you must convert all that money and all the value that you built into a high tempo playstyle later in the game. So eventually it means you do have to play high tempo. So this video is definitely really on the long side, and I do want to apologize because tempo is a very difficult thing for me to explain. You kind of have to get a feel for it, and then in addition to that, tempo advantage is this like really mysterious thing to understand even for pro players. Like I don't even fully understand it, but I do know that it's a thing, and that at the very highest level, understanding tempo advantage is like what makes or breaks the top players. So basically like a big eye opener for me is when Polt hit rank 1 on in set 3, it's almost off of his knowledge of high tempo playstyle. Actually, it's really funny because I remember watching Polt in set 3, and he would have 0 gold for the entire game, and then he would still get a first. Basically, he would only use his win gold and win streak gold in order to build a stronger board. And yeah, he was able to get first consistently. So he had a really deep understanding of tempo advantage at the time. But now I've started to develop a better understanding of tempo advantage myself. And basically, by understanding tempo, you can start understanding why strategies work. So for example, why does hyper rolling work? Because you have that high tempo push at 3-1, which actually allows you to stabilize and start econing back as well, right? Or a lot of times, why you died before wolves? Because I don't know why I said wolves, but why do you die before raptors? Because you were low tempo while the entire lobby was probably high tempo. So tempo is definitely a very important thing to understanding in TFT. I hope I explained it as best as I can to my current understanding, and I hope you guys got something out of it as well.